Good morning, everybody. We read this story yesterday, so we're going to reread it again. We're going to discuss it, and then we're going to fill out a little graphic organizer so we can get all the details in the story. Does anybody remember what the story was about yesterday? Alyssa?
It's about three soldiers who were so hungry, and they stole our soup.
Okay. You got anything to add, Julia?
They make stone soup.
They did make stone soup. William? Alright, so yes, there's the three soldiers that went to the town, and nobody had any food to share, so they made the stone soup. Alright, let's read it. Three soldiers trudged down a road in a strange country. They were on their way home from the wars. Besides being tired, they were hungry. In fact, they had eaten nothing for 2 days. How I would like a good dinner tonight, said the first, and a bed to sleep in, said the second. But all that is impossible, said the third. We must march on. On they marched. Suddenly, ahead of them, they saw the lights of a village. Maybe we'll find a bite to eat there, said the first, and a loft to sleep in, said the second. No harm in asking, said the third. Now the peasants of the place feared strangers. When they heard the three soldiers were coming down the road, they talked amongst themselves. So what were the soldiers looking for? Caleb?
They're looking for food.
What else were they looking for? Kendall? Exactly. They were wanting something to eat and somewhere to sleep. Here come three soldiers. Soldiers are always hungry, but we have little enough for ourselves. And they hurried to hide their food. They pushed the sacks of barley under the hay in the lofts. They lowered buckets of milk down wells. They spread old quilts over the carrot bins. They hid their cabbage and potatoes under the bed. They hung their meat in the cellars. They hid all they had to eat. Then they waited. Alright, so they hid their meat because they barely had enough for themselves. The soldiers stopped first at the house of Paul and Francis. Good evening to you, they said. Could you spare a bit of food for 3 hungry soldiers? We have had no food for ourselves for 3 days, said Paul. Francis made a sad face. It has been a poor harvest. The 3 soldiers went on to the house of Albert and Louise. Could you spare a bit of food? And have you some corner where we can sleep for the night? Oh, no, said Albert. We gave all we could spare to the soldiers who came before you. Our beds are full, said Louise. At Vincent and Marie's, the answer was the same. It had been a poor harvest, and all the grain must be kept for seed. So it went all through the village. Not a peasant had any food to give. They all had good reasons. One family had used the grain for feed, another had an old sick father to care for, and all had too many mouths to feed. So, if any of y'all had soldiers come to your house and you were living in this village, would y'all treat them the same way the villagers are?
No.
No. What would some of y'all do? Hayden? You give them somewhere? Okay. Cornelia? You got anything? No? Okay. Chas. Yes. We would all be very nice to them. Alright. The villagers stood in the street and sighed. They looked as hungry as they could. The three soldiers talked together. What do you think they're talking about?
They're talking about since they don't have any food, they'll just make some soup.
Do you think they're coming up with a plan to make soup? Alright, let's find out. Then the first soldier called out, "Good people." The peasants drew near. "We are 3 hungry soldiers in a strange land. We have asked you for food, and you have no food. Well then, we all have to make stone soup." The peasants stared. Stone soup? That would be something to know about. Does anybody remember what they put in the stone soup? Charles? Yeah, there was milk. Jaden, right? I'm saying that right? Okay, go ahead.
Carrots.
Yeah, there were carrots. Go ahead. There was beef. What else were there?
Salt.
Yeah, we had salt. Julio?
Corn.
You said, did she have corn or carrots?
Corn.
No, they didn't have corn, but corn would have been really good in the soup, wouldn't it? Emma. Yep, we had salt, and then we had pepper. Alright, let's see what else they added. First, we'll need a large iron pot, the soldier said. The peasants brought the largest pot they could find. How else to cook enough? That's none too large, said the soldiers, but it will do. And now, water to fill it, and fire to heat it. It took many buckets of water to fill the pot. A fire was built on the village square, and the pot was set to boil. And now, if you please, 3 round, smooth stones. They were easy enough to find. The peasants' eyes grew round as they watched the soldiers drop the stones into the pots. Any soup needs salt and pepper, said the soldiers as they began to stir. Children ran to fetch salt and pepper. Stones like these generally make good soup. But oh, if there were carrots, it would be much better. Why, I think I have a carrot or 2, said Frances, and off she ran. She came back with her apron full of carrots from the bin beneath the red quilt. A good stone soup should have cabbage, said the soldiers as they sliced the carrots into the pot, but no use asking for what you don't have. I think I could find a cabbage somewhere, said Marie, and she hurried home. But she came with 3 cabbages from the cupboard under her bed. So they also put cabbage in the soup. So we've got salt and pepper, carrots, and cabbage in a soup. If we only had a bit of beef and a few potatoes, the soup would be good enough for a rich man's table. The peasants thought that over. They remembered their potatoes and the side of beef hanging in the cellars. They ran to fetch them. A rich man's soup, and all from a few stones? It seemed like magic. Do y'all think it's magic, or do you think the soldiers tricked them?
Magic.
A little of both. Ah, sighed the soldiers as they stirred in the beef and potatoes. If we only had a little barley and a cup of milk, this soup would be fit for the king himself. Indeed, he asked for just such a soup when he last dined with us. The peasants looked at each other. The soldiers had entertained the king well. But no use asking for what you don't have. The soldiers sighed. The peasants brought their barley from the loaves. They brought their milk from the wells. The soldiers stirred the barley and the milk into the steaming broth while the peasants stared. So all the food that they hid when the soldiers first came into the town, they're starting to pull out so they can make this stone soup. At last the soup was ready. All of you shall taste, the soldier said, but first a table must be set. Great tables were placed in a square, and all around were lighted torches. What kind of soups do y'all like to eat? Caleb?
I like to eat beef, something with meat in it.
You like chicken noodle soup with the chicken in it?
I love every soup that has meat in it.
Okay, lots of soup. Alyssa?
I like what my mom made. She made potato soup and noodle soup.
Potato soup's really good. And rack.
I like the rice soup.
That's good soup too. Julio?
I like potato soup and meat soup all together.
Go ahead, Jake.
Broth.
Like a stew with a broth in it? That's really good too. Alright, let's continue. Such a soup, how good it smelled, truly fit for a king. But then the peasants asked themselves, would not such a soup require bread and a roast and a cider? Soon a banquet was spread and everyone sat down to eat. Never had there been such a feast, never had the peasants tasted such soup, and fancy, made from stones. They ate and drank, and after that they danced. They danced and sang far into the night. So they were so happy for making this stone soup. They were celebrating. At last they were tired. The three soldiers asked, is there not a loft where we could sleep? Let three such wise and splendid gentlemen sleep in a loft indeed. They must have the best beds in the village. Does anybody remember what beds they got? William? Need some help? Yeah. Caleb, do you remember any of them?
The mayor, the baker, and
Okay, that's two of them. Go ahead, Charles.
the farmer.
No, it wasn't the farmer. Does anybody else remember? Well, no, it's not the king. He didn't get the king's bed. Let's see what else bed he got. So the first soldier slept in the priest's house. The second soldier slept in the baker's house. And the third soldier slept in the mayor's house. So it was the priest's house he got.
Which one's the priest's house?
This one's the priest right here. It's the one with the little cross at the top. In the morning, the whole village gathered in the square to send them off. Many thanks for what you have taught us, the peasant said to the soldiers. We shall never go hungry now that we know how to make soup from stones.